What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Submission Fishing Live podcast. Hopefully, everybody's doing good out there. Spotty Bull, what's up, man? We're on YouTube if you want to join. I'll be signing off here pretty soon, just letting everybody know we're going live. Down in SD, Oos, what's going on? Sammy, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Graham, Oos, love the lives. Yeah, the lives are good. So I've been trying to bring them back. I know it's a little earlier out there, but it's trying to find the compromise between doing it not too late here, but then not too early over there. It was still pretty early over in California. Still at work. Come on, Eric. Punch the clock, man. Time to get out. Tell them submission fishing's on. You got to go. How you doing, Judge? You guys been fishing or what? Let a couple more people roll in here and see if they adjust to the new time. But yeah, the weather's crazy down in. I've been kind of watching it from afar. I know Doug Rubin's been sending me like videos, and one of my buddies, Travis as well, has been sending me a bunch of clips, and I've never seen rain like that before. I mean, yeah, heavy rain. They were sending me videos um, from like just like the streets that I lived like right down the street from, and it was crazy. The whole like 78 freeway was closed down right under El Camino, and I live like 3 minutes from there. I know exactly where it is, and I've never seen flooding like that in San Diego. I lived in San Diego probably, man, almost 15 years, I'd say. Maybe 13, 14 years or something like that. Close to 15 years. And I've seen some heavy rains where everything gets jacked up, but nothing like I saw last week. And then I guess it's hitting now. They're closing stuff down. When I was there, the 78, like what was it, like 2 years ago? Like a part of it collapsed a little bit, but it was like it got undermined from the rain, but it was nothing like I saw a couple like last month, man. Freaking crazy. Absolutely nuts. Kiwi Racks. Ooh, I'm super late. Nah, dude. Only a few minutes. Oliver SD Fishing. What's going on, man? Good to see you. It's all good. We're letting some people get in here a little bit. What's going on, guys, on Instagram? If you want to join us, hit us up on YouTube. I'm doing the YouTube live, so I'll be switching off here if you want to find us on YouTube. But yeah, on today's show, I got some news stories, some pretty good stuff for the California guys, and was another good story we can talk about too. And then we had kind of my main topic. We'll talk about artificial reefs. I haven't. What's interesting is something I haven't really talked about too much on the show. I don't think. We've covered pretty much everything else, and I'm like, man, what can we talk about? What's something new? And then artificial reef fishing is something I just want to touch on a little bit. Go over the history, how to fish them, kind of what they are, and what to look for, and all that good stuff. So hopefully it's pretty good. What's going on, guys? Instagram. If you want to join us, we're over on YouTube doing our thing. Submission Fishing channel on YouTube. You guys been fishing, or has it been too rough with all the weather? Has it been raining just like constantly, or has it just been like a couple big storms? I've been kind of out of touch with the Southern California life. Out here, it's been like really cold. It's been a wet winter, but nothing like too crazy. But it's definitely been cold. The weather's been, in like the 40s and 30s at night, and then it gets up into like the 50s and 60s during the day. But luckily out here we can fish because the um the freshwater doesn't affect it so much because I'm on the St. Johns River and it connects to the Atlantic, so it's already like brackish and it's mixed fresh and salt. So they don't like the fish don't freak out too bad. It's already brackish, you know what I mean? So luckily, I mean the winter effects I think is affecting the fishing more than like the brackish water for sure. Sammy said not really, just starting the storms. Yeah, I heard there was like a bunch of warnings and stuff going out. That's crazy. Ray says, "What type of jigs do you recommend for a half day going for rockfish?" I would recommend well, it all depends how far out you're going. If you're doing a half day, you guys going out to Mexico, I'm assuming, right? Because the rock fishery is closed in California. Anything from if you're going to be shallow, I would say the Javelin, the 130 to 220. And we got the new ogres out, the 200, 300 gram. Will probably be your best bet. If you're going to be fishing over, if you guys are going really deep, like 4, 5, 600 feet, yeah, just get one of those heavy ogres, the big ones. Even a 300 would probably work there. But the ogre or the samurai for the big stuff. If you're going to be fairly shallow, javelin will get the job done for sure. If you're going really shallow towards the islands, you could even get away with like the 60 grams. If you're going to be in like maybe 100 feet of water or less, if you're looking for like redfish and stuff, even like a 60 and 40 gram jigs will actually work. But you got to be really shallow and there can't be too much current. Otherwise, you might not ever hit the bottom. Sammy says fishing's been a grind. I bet, man. It's been pretty quiet on the fishing front. I don't think anybody's been really going out there. It's tough too. It's the middle of winter, then you got all the rain. Because you get what happens is those bays just get trashed and contaminated. Not only just all the pollutants that go in from the ground, but all that fresh water too. It just doesn't mix well with the fish. Yeah, man, that sucks. But hopefully it'll turn around. What's going on, guys? On Instagram. If you want, hit us up on YouTube. We'll be switching over there pretty soon. Well, what else is new with you guys? Besides fishing, the Bart Hall was going on. Did you guys go to that? PCS is coming up. So we'll be out there March. What was it, 6th through the 10th or something like that? So I'm super stoked. Trying to get a few things finished from there. Definitely more logistics, moving or not moving, flying everything out. Although I ordered a lot of stuff, I'm just gonna have it sent over there and then I'll pick it up and then move it. But definitely be a challenge for sure. Corey King, Oos, what's going on, man? Glad you could join us. Yeah, PCS is gonna be dope. If any of you guys want to help at PCS, feel free to hit me up. It gets boring in that booth alone. So although most people actually it doesn't get too boring. I shouldn't say that. It's not boring. It's just it's a lot of work standing there for like 12 hours a day every day. So if any of you guys want to come in, say what's up, help out, stand behind the booth and just mostly just talking jigging with people. Most of you guys know what's up. You know how to work them. A lot of people just have questions about how they work, what do you catch with them and stuff like that. So if any of you guys are down, let me know. I think I get a pass. I'll get a guest pass. I can usually get you guys in to the little vendor area. Should be fun. Yeah, man, I am looking forward to PCS. Looking forward to seeing everybody. Looks like the Bart Hall was pretty good this year, though. I know the last couple of years it hasn't been like as great as it was, but it looks like it's been pretty good. Pretty good turnout this year. I don't know if it's the timing, the time of year, or maybe they're just getting some more traction, but it should be good to see. Yeah, Corey, I'm definitely happy to have you. That'd be awesome. Real tweaks, is the water warm yet? No, dude. It's cold. It's been cold everywhere. We still got a couple months. I'm sure you know that already. It's been pretty bad. All right, guys. On Instagram, I'm going to sign off. If you guys want to find us on YouTube, check us out. We're going live. See you there later. Oops. Discard media. Sorry, get this fished. Let me get my notes up. We'll get going. All right, guys, let's do this. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Submission Fishing Live Podcast. Glad you could join us. I'm your host, Muto, owner of Submission Fishing Company. We're here to get you your black belt in fishing. I sell slow pitch jigs, micro jigs, but it's not a slow pitch show. We pretty much talk about everything. And thanks for joining us. I know it's the middle of winter. This is the dog days of fishing, man. Nobody, only the diehards are out there. Sales are slow, fishing shores are slow. It's the fishing industry every winter. It's pretty bad, but we're still fishing. I mean, we still fish through the winter. I know a lot of you guys do too. If you're listening to this, watching this, you're one of the diehards. I mean, you get it, but Just it is what it is. Yeah, let's start off with I'm going to start off with some stories, some news. We'll go over Instagram questions. If you guys have any questions in the chat, obviously hit me up as well. And main topic is going to be just kind of some artificial reef stuff. Talk about them, things I haven't really talked about in the past, and just some things living out here in Florida have kind of opened my eyes, and some opportunities out in California as well that we find with the artificial reefs. So it should be pretty good. In the first story, we actually have I saw this one for California. Newsom uh, backs 3 dam removals on California River, um, so the salmon can move freely. So this is actually a pretty good thing. Governor Newsom said Tuesday he would support removing 3 California dams, a move that can be a boon to the ailing salmon populations. Yet many environmental activists consider it a hollow gesture given the governor's farm-friendly water politics. The salmon recovery plan released by the governor's office committed to removing dams on California's Eel River, Ventura River, and Malibu Creek for the restoration of habitat for salmon, a critical resource for native communities and the fishing economy. And he said salmon are an integral part of the shared history of California. And he says they're doubling down, making sure the species not only adapts in the face of the extreme weather, but remains a fixture of California's natural beauty and ecosystems. And apparently, before 1950, there was an estimated 5.5 million coho salmon, shinhook salmon, and steelhead returned to California rivers as part of their natural life cycle. So that was in the 50s. In 2022, it's estimated only 93,000 the iconic fish spawned in the state's rivers. So that's a pretty low number. So that's good. Yeah, if you guys want to check that out, I'll put the story in the link. But that's some good news. I mean, glad to see Newsom's doing something right. I know he gets a lot of shit from us, and mostly because he's trashing the fishermen, but I guess it's a pretty good move. And it's a good move because the environmentalists are against him. It's like, it was something right. But yeah, California just has um, such a bad water. I don't know, was like a water distribution problem, water um, filtration problem that it's the dams and the whole thing is just a big issue. And it's crazy because California is such a big desert and it gets most of its water from the Colorado River, but then it's all tied up politically, with the dams and stuff like that. Is water diverted to farmland? Is it diverted to the cities? It's this whole thing. There's such a finite, resource of it there. It's just crazy, but yeah, it looks like they're going to be doing something that's positive for fishing. Hopefully it turns out. It'd be awesome to have a healthy salmon fishery in California. It's not really something that um, is talked about too much. Usually it's up in Washington and the Pacific Northwest where you hear people go for the big salmon. And I know it's sort of a thing, but they've had to close it down this year, or was it maybe last year due to just there wasn't enough to fish. So hopefully this helps out and does some good. We'll see how that works. And then another story we had was I saw this one on Outdoor Life. This was I guess in Washington. So if any of you guys are up there in Washington, they're proposing a fur ban, but it's worried about crippling like the lure manufacturers and fly tires or something like that. Trappers in the state, I guess they're up in arms over the legislation that would ban the sale of fur statewide. This is now fishermen are starting to speak up. New legislation proposed in Washington state that would ban the sale of fur statewide is getting outsized attention from a niche community of the outdoor world. Anglers and fly tires who use the fur and other natural fibers to create handmade flies and fishing lures. A few of these advocates spoke out during a public hearing in Olympia on Thursday when a substituted version of the Senate bill, this is 6294, was heard by the Senate Business, Financial Services, Gaming, and Trade community. So, yeah, I guess they're just saying the bill would kind of kill the thing. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I guess supporters of the bill spoke out. They were hearing it was them. I guess the primary hearing was all animal rights activists, and now they're hearing the side from the fishermen and stuff like that. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I know they were more concerned with. I think I saw somewhere in the story that they were more concerned with bringing in fur from like China and stuff that was killed like inhumanely. Something like the fur can't be attached to skin or something like that, but you can still import it. Producing animal hair are not attached. Oh, that's what it was. So the substituted version of SB 6294 makes exceptions for flies and other fishing lures, along with products containing animal hair, fleece, and fur fibers that are just not attached to skin. Okay. He made it clear that the bill's primary intent is to ban the sale of furs produced unethically in foreign countries, especially China, or in fur farms that use cruel practices. So, yeah, I mean that's good. I guess the bill was revised and rewritten, and I don't think it's gone through either. I don't know if it's going to vote or what the thing is, but just another impact on the fishery. Keep your eyes out on. I've never fished in Washington, but I know there's lots of streams and lakes and stuff up there. Right. Imagine fly fishing's pretty big. Leonard Oos, welcome. 19 months. Thank you, sir. Long time member, man. I appreciate it. Over a year. How you been, Leonard? Been out there slaying? Or you still under wraps for the winter like everybody else? I know it's been rough. Yeah, I think it's all I have. As far as news stories, just those two things. So check out the dams and then the wildlife fur trade. So let's talk about reefs a little bit. So artificial reefs. This is something that I haven't really talked about on the show, and I think that's because for those of you guys that don't know, most of you guys know on here, um, I lived in California for pretty much my whole life. I was raised out there, and then I recently moved to Florida. I had a house out here for a few years, and then we decided to just move out here full time. But like artificial reef fishing, it wasn't really a thing in California, and and even though they exist, it's not like a huge program, and I think because there's so much structure in California. But then when you come to Florida, um, when you go offshore, it's everything about Florida fishing and offshore fishing is pretty. It's all about reefs. It's all about down south they got the natural coral reef. Up here and along the coast and the Gulf, it's all about artificial reef. So when you go out fishing offshore, I mean that's what you're looking for, and the differences are really because the fish are all around the wrecks here. They're called wrecks or reefs, whatever you want to call them, because a lot of them are boats that they've decommissioned. When you're out in California, I think there's so much more structure and there's other places to catch fish. But out here, it's basically like the land is flat. It's to compare the two. California is like it's like the Rocky Mountains, like flipped upside down in the water. The topography underneath the water is mountainous. It's rocky. When you go out and fish in California, you're fishing the kelp beds, you're fishing rock piles and stuff like that. And there's fish seem to be spread out in more places, kind of everywhere. There's a lot more places to hide just because of the nature of the land. While here in Florida, it's it's basically flat. It's sand. Like there's basically no structure out here. So what they do is they create structure, and it's interesting because the fish are all congregated in these certain points in these structural zones. And at first, when I first got out here, I was kind of naive, to be honest with you, kind of ignorant to the fact that people were like, "Oh, we're fishing wrecks, we're fishing these wrecks." And we go out and find them. When you look at them on the map and stuff, the wreck, like you see these wrecks everywhere, and I was like, "Are these just all boats that like somehow sunk to the bottom or something like that?" But they're artificial reefs, and the wrecks themselves are um, boats that have been decommissioned, and it's something like there's thousands of them. There's like I don't know, if it was like 3,000 or I think it was like 3,000. It wasn't 30,000. I think it was like 3,000 boats or something all throughout Florida where they basically they take them out of service. They clean the oil out, the gas. They take like all the plastic and stuff, and then they actually decommission and they sink the ships um, down just all over the coastline um, of Florida. It's a trip. So they make all these wrecks that you can fish at, and then they create these artificial reefs. And sorry, the baby was crying. Oos, that little fish. What's going on, man? But yeah, so they sink all these boats, and then they become they become reefs. And it was like I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense that they're decommissioning these boats. And then it was crazy because like when I was thinking about California, I was like, why don't we don't ever really talk about the artificial reef so much, but um Steven Mendoza, oos, what's going on, man? They they exist out there and I fished them as well, but I'm wondering like why the artificial reefs don't get fished. And if you go to California's website, maybe I can put the link on here. It's crazy. You can see that there's this whole. I'm trying to find it my notes here, but you can go look on the California site under if you like type in artificial reefs in California, and same within Florida. You can type in the Fish and Game. They'll send you a whole list of all the artificial reefs that are found in California. You get the coordinates and everything. There's not as many in Florida, but there are a lot. Like I used to fish the one that was um, like just south of Carlsbad, and some of these were from like the 70s or even earlier, like way early. There was like six cement reefs they put there, and then they put other reefs up north. I know Pendleton's got a big one, and I'm just wondering why we didn't like fish them as much out there, or we don't hear as much talk about the artificial reef. But there was a lot. There was some in Newport that were planted, and they were just kind of all over the place. And I was really surprised, when I saw them because I was like, I wonder why these weren't something that we ever fished for. And I think it's mostly because there's just so much um, natural reef out there. A reef is basically just um, it could be anything. It could be a shoal of rocks. It can be coral reef, which I think that's what I kind of mostly associated it with, was the coral reef, but that's just another form of reef. It's just kind of wild. And I guess, let's see if I can pull it up here. Because I found this really good article. I'm trying to see if I can link it for you guys. But I had the whole history of them in Southern California. I guess it was this book written. It was a guide of artificial reefs in 1989, I guess by Robert D. Lewis, and then it was updated in 2001. So the reefs have been a thing since like 1989, and it was a booklet and a pamphlet for like nearshore sport fishing habitat. I guess it was a program in the late 80s, early 90s, where they were trying to relocate some of the fish and stuff like that. Looks like halibut, and they were trying to get yellowtail to go there um, and stuff too. It was pretty freaking wild. Yeah, it looks like there's one in Pendleton. Let's see here. Trying to find the introduction to it. It was like the booklet and all that shit. Oh yeah, here was a part of it. The artificial. This was like some of the history. Um, the artificial reefs have been used over 200 years to enhance fishing catches. As early as Japanese fishermen over 200 years ago, they used to use mounds of stones, laboriously carried to selected locations uh, in boats to attract fish. Yeah, construction of rock reefs. Countries like Japan. Currently, Japan spends approximately 60 million per year for fisheries enhanced projects. Includes artificial reef construction, Japanese reef designs with concentrated for creating reefs, which attracts primarily increases the harvest and production of fish. Yeah, early in California's reef development efforts of the Department of Fish and Game marine biologists noted the immediate attraction to the large numbers of fish to the artificial reef, and thus considered reef successful. Later, we began to take a look at the impact. Yeah, so it's crazy. It's like a 200-year-old practice, but yeah, you guys check that thing out in the California Fish and Wildlife thing. It's pretty crazy. And what's funniest too is that they, um, I guess at some point in the '70s they started like dumping tires down into the water. And apparently that didn't work. I guess there was some place in Florida too where they started doing that. But I know up in like Oceanside, I think near like the San Onofre area, there was like a I've seen videos of it too on YouTube where there's like a bunch of tires that got dumped, and then they went to them and looked at them later, and there was just nothing going on. And tires have been in there since like at this point probably years and years. I think in the '70s over here in Florida they dumped like the tire field, and it's still just a problem for whatever reason. Nothing adhered to them, and they did the same thing up in Oceanside, um, where it was like they dumped a bunch of tires and nothing's come of it. Now you just got forget a bunch of rubber in the ground. Uh, you guys, mostly um, the reefs are usually made of like concrete and then some sort of stone, something that like the organic life attaches to. And what's crazy is when they're successful, it's like I've been watching some of these YouTube videos when they sink these boats or they put like the cement balls down with like a bunch of holes and or they're like cement with the rock on them. What's crazy was that they were getting fish on some of these things like just months. Like within a couple days, the fish are already in there. But there was one after just like it was like 4 weeks or something after dropping one of these reefs. There was already like 200 species of fish just already cruising around these things, which is pretty unbelievable. I mean, you see them after 1 or 2 years, and they're pretty much just overgrown with life. You know, all that biological stuff grows in, and it's pretty crazy. And they're almost like a habitat, like anything else, just like a kelp patty. The bait fish move in, and then you get or the small stuff, the micro bait comes in. You know, all the bio life and barnacles and stuff like that. Then the bait fish move in. Then when the bait fish move in, obviously, then you get all the big fish. You know what everybody's fishing for. And yeah, they've just been super successful. So I just wanted to touch on those a little bit and go out and target those things. One of the things that's great about the artificial reefs is they're like God's gift to slow pitch jigging. I mean, it's perfect. You vertical fish them, they're right there on the bottom, but you have to be really careful about how you're throwing things and getting snagged. You know, me and Kevin went out here. We were fishing the wrecks around all the. We went to a bunch of different reefs. We've probably hit, I'd say, 20 different ones at this point, and we haven't lost too many jigs because we know kind of when we hit them, you got to get them up. But yeah, it's not really the best place where you just want to be bottom soaking baits or even bouncing your slow pitch too much off the bottom. But if you know where it's at, you just get close, man, reel it up. Or once you hit the bottom, you know you got to get it up quick and you won't get snagged. So whenever you guys are fishing structure and stuff, there's just something to keep in mind is that if you're on a really big drift, you're at a much greater risk of losing your lures, whether you're fishing jigs or even if you're just fishing weights and hooks. Um, Whenever the boat is stopped and it goes over a rock pile, but you're getting wind or drift and the boat's drifting, it's just going to drag you in between the rocks and then you're done. Luckily, we got a smaller boat and we've got what is it? The trolling motor on it, and it really hasn't been a problem because we can stay pretty much right on top of these wrecks. And then if you get snagged, you can just jog it over a couple feet. It's not that big of a deal. But when you're on a big drift, yeah, and it's Snag City, Snagalony. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring that to your guys' attention, man. It's just something that we just seem like we never really talked about in Southern California. As I think when everybody goes out, they go and hit um, they go to the kelp beds or they go to the rocks, but rocks are pretty much reef. But there is artificial reef out there, and I feel like it's um, kind of like a missed opportunity that we don't do. You know what I mean? So you guys try it out. I've hit the ones in Carlsbad, like I've said. I know there's wreck off of just north of Mission Bay too that people have definitely had some success on. So I'm just curious if any of you guys have fished those things, had any luck with them, or if they're not even worth your time. Because I know out here on the East Coast, It's freaking it's everything. Absolutely everything. It's crazy. Oh yeah, Sammy said, Muta, have you heard of the about the orcas hanging? Yeah, I have. And that's crazy too. Orcas are like they're the worst. I don't know if they're messing with people out there, but you can deal with sea lions, sharks. I'm not even too worried about the sharks. Like the sharks will eat your fish, and they'll take your lures and stuff like that. But aside from that, sharks like aren't that intelligent. There's tons of sharks out here. Once you start getting into mammals, it's like the intelligence levels just go through the roof, and then it's like a big problem. Sea lions are bad enough because sea lions are pretty smart too, but they're not like orca smart. I I don't think I would want to kayak fish around orcas. And you hear about them like systematically tearing these boats apart, or was it like Norway or something like that, where they've been like attacking the motors and then slapping the sides of the boat. Like these things are literally like trying to sink boats. But I've been seeing, I mean, it's like the pictures in La Jolla where they're throwing the dolphins in the air, straight up just like bullying and killing dolphins and stuff. That's crazy. But yeah, orcas are no joke. Killer whales, it's even in a small boat, it's something I would definitely worry about. Have you guys seen any personally? I think Doug Rubin said he saw some. He was sending pictures and stuff like that. I don't know if they were his pictures, um, or somebody else's, but it's crazy. Dude. Killer whale is like if there was killer whales out and I was on my kayak. That's probably when I go home. Too smart, too dangerous. Those are sharks, no problem. Sea lions, yeah, not a big deal. I ain't messing with no killer whales. It's a different world. Down on SD, our replacement assist hooks available for your 10-gram slow pitch jigs. Um, you know what? I have some. I've got to put them on the site, and I could send you some though. Roy, how many do you need? Just let me know. But I have replacements. I do. I've got a whole bunch of them. The thing is, I don't have any like packaging for them or anything, so they're all like my supplier sent me a bunch, but they're not like how should I say it? They weren't like packaged for like he didn't send them like in like retail packaging. They're all just like in a big like separate plastic bags. So I do have a ton. If I could figure out some way to like maybe package them up or send them out, um, it's something I can do. I've been sending them to people that been asking me for them. If you guys need some, but if I could figure out some way to like get some packaging made, I definitely put them on the site and sell them. Unless I just sell them all ghetto, set them in a plastic bag with like a piece of masking tape with some writing on it, tell you what you're getting. Yeah, I don't know about that. Sammy said, I've tried the reefs in Newports, Huntington, not very big fish. Yeah, that must be why nobody talks about them, right? Like, because I know the reefs exist in Southern California, but they were never like, never talked about. And I think a lot of that is just California benefits from having so much natural structure. And I think that's what makes it harder about fishing California because fish can be anywhere in California. Anybody that's gone out there, like you guys know, it's so rocky. There's so many places to hide. There's just rock piles everywhere. There's literally just mountains and hills and rocks that are just naturally part of the land. The sand out there is like it's really rocky and ground up granite. You guys ever go to the beaches and it's just like full of rocks? That's mostly what the sand is. California is like a bunch of granite, and it shows on the ocean floor. We're out here in Florida. It's like the sand. The beaches are all like white sand. It's mostly because it's shells, as my understanding. It's not. It's like powder. It's really white, powdery sand. There's like no rocks. There's just no rocks out here. It's just a different kind of geography. So what's crazy, like in Florida, and one of the things why I think fishing in Florida is easier and more fun in some respects is like when you go out offshore, you find one of these wrecks and you find one of these artificial reefs, like there is fish on it. 100%. There's not a single um wreck or reef or artificial whatever that me and Kevin have went out to and checked that did not have fish on it. Every single one just produced fish. And the farther we went out, it was like just amberjack, barracuda. We caught cobia, everything, and even inner closer, there's like a bunch of wrecks too. It was like tons of snapper, small red snapper, which you can't keep anyways. Um, or you're getting like bonito and then black bass, just all kinds of like the small fish, and then some of the smaller snapper too that you could eat. There was like I forget the kind, just mangrove snapper and I think yellowtail snapper, stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's really the difference. Since it's such a barren land that whenever there's a wreck, there's fish. It's like guarantee. They aren't anywhere else. So that's what makes it easier about fishing here in Florida. It's like, the 90-10 rule where they say 90% of the fish, um, what is it? 90% of the ocean, 10% of the fish live, 90% of the fish live in 10% of the ocean. That's what it is. So, um, you got to find that 10%. Well, in Florida, that 10% is really easy to find because it's literally sand and nothing else out there. And then there's artificial reefs and wrecks in very few spots. And that's 100% where the fish all just hang out. California, I think it's just totally, I think it's harder. I think they're a lot more spread out just because the whole area is rock. The whole entire state, the whole offshore, everything is rocky ground. You've got the kelp beds. There's no kelp out here. Um, it's just crazy. At least as far as offshore goes, just totally different. But I think that must be why nobody's talked about it. Yeah, the pipeline, uh, just a couple, no real rush. I still have other 10 grams I can use. Nice, man. Sammy says, I'll buy some replacement hooks. Sell them in a Ziploc, right? I have a lot. If you need some, Sammy, I'll let you know. You're part of the pro staff. If you need hooks, I'll give you some hooks. We'll hook you up. Just let me know what you need. The big ones or the little ones. We sell the big one, like the real big. We sell the tuna stuff and the rockfish stuff. But yeah, I know some of the guys hit me up. I'll get them. Maybe I'll put them up on the site. I'll have to make that like a priority. I'll just get some cards made or something. Pipeline in Huntington, way more promising for decent calicos and sandies. Yeah. I mean, basically, the wall, right, in Long Beach is essentially an artificial reef. I mean, it's a jetty, it's a seawall, but like underneath it, it's basically rocks and riprap. It's the same thing. That's some of the best fishing, at least at night. I've only fished it one time, but we had pretty good success. But I know at night, it's like it just pops off. Same thing with the what they call it, the pipe in San Diego, which is just north of Point Loma, like right when you go out of Mission Bay. If you just go north, there's a pipe there, and it's same thing. It's an artificial reef. A lot of people fish that thing. I personally have not had like very good luck at all at the pipe. I know a lot of people do. I know Eric goes out there and like he fishes it a lot, and he does pretty well. But I fished it like a handful of times, maybe 3 or 4 times, and I haven't really gone back because we haven't had that much luck. At least not anything of size, like some small calicos and stuff like that. Brian likes to fish. And Muto, I made it. Oos, what's going on, man? Brian likes to fish, one of our sponsored tournament members, multi spotty bull champion, bass fisherman, calicos, the SBS Bass Series. We're a proud sponsor of him and Salty. Good to see you, Brian. Hopefully everything's good with you. You need to create some structure out in the water. You want to know? Brian says you need to create some structure out in the water in front of your house. You know what? It's funny you should mention that because I was just talking to Kevin and I was like, I was just talking about this like 2 days ago, and I was like, hey, I should build a reef outside just right there in front of my house. And I was like, maybe if like I go at night. You see, well, here's the thing: the reefs they're all governed by the Army Corps of Engineers. So it's like, and so I did look into this. I actually Googled, can you build an artificial reef yourself? And you really can't. There's like designated areas where the Army Corps of Engineers is like, it's the same people that you talk to when you need to get like a dock built. So they're the ones that kind of decide like how your dock can build or where it can be built. Like out here, it's like it's not controlled. It's where you don't get like city permits and stuff like that. You have to like get a clearance through them and show them your plans, and then they're like, oh, you can build a dock. They're the same people, I guess, that decide where artificial reefs or boats can be sunken down. They're not always boats. Sometimes they're just like cement structures and pillars, but you can't really just put them anywhere. I guess they've got to be within certain zones, and then obviously they've got to be an organization. I think it's the government that dumps them all. I was reading like it's not. I don't think there's any private party. And I was even reading something. It was like if you're caught even creating a like a artificial reef, then you get in trouble for like they would just call it like ocean dumping or uh, yeah, like littering and dumping trash in the ocean, even if it was like a cement block or something. But that was pretty funny. I totally thought about that because but then we were like, oh, we probably shouldn't because what if a boat drives by and hits it? And it's like, because it's pretty shallow back here. I'm like, well, maybe I just throw like 3 or 4 cinder blocks back there, let them grow, get the tarpon and the snook farm going, the redfish. It'd be pretty awesome. Spotty at best. What's going on, man? And we got all the champs in the house today. Then we got the reigning Spotty Wool champion. What's going on, dude? Got all the killers in. There's some shopping carts that people throw off the bridge in Mission Bay that always hold fish. Yeah, it doesn't, dude. It's funny because it doesn't need much. Fish will go. We've all talked about this. We all know this. Any structure, fish will congregate to, and it's just it is what it is. It's natural defense. Everything grows on it, creates its own ecosystem. It's like a small ecosystem that it creates, just like the kelp patty. And there's things like kelp patties out here. There's like some sort of grass that like float, and I guess it's kind of has the same effect, where they get like Dorados on them and stuff like that. But yeah, dude, shopping carts. Really, it doesn't matter. Anything can be an artificial reef. And you know what's funny? And I've talked about this on the show, but um, speaking of artificial reefs, there was you guys ever heard of like the trash island like that? Um, apparently there's like this all the world's trash like goes to this current and it creates like this there's like this big island of trash like somewhere where it all floats together and it just shows you like how kind of resilient the ocean is. Um there was this big effort to clean up the trash, right? So everybody was like, "Oh, we're gonna go clean up this trash." It was like this international effort. We're gonna trash island. We're gonna take it down and stuff like that. Well, and this was just floating on the surface. They sent divers down and stuff. But what happened is there was millions of fish. There was tens of thousands. There was a whole ecosystem of fish were living under Trash Island. Um, just like a kelp patty. There was just like fish were breeding there. They were like living under the Trash Island, and then I guess it was like this whole fish ecosystem. So then they ran into the problem where they were like, well, what are they going to do? So they had to put it on hold because they're like, well, now if we clean up the Trash Island and clean up all this trash, we're literally going to destroy this whole fish ecosystem that's out in the middle of the water. It was pretty wild. You guys should look that up. So it was just like this thing that they thought was, this huge problem in the sea. They were like, well, now we can't get rid of it because we're going to literally ruin millions of fish's lives if we just get rid of this trash. So I don't know what they've done with it, or I don't know if they're going to do a cleanup, but it's definitely something they've had to talk about, and they had to put it on hold uh, just because they didn't want to destroy all that. So it's crazy. Graham says Florida has the trash lines that hold fish. Oh, 100%. Remember Captain Dan was talking about that. I don't see him on here. He's usually on the live, but Captain Dan was talking about how after it rains, you go find a trash pile that's like floating out in the water, like offshore. He said they always find fish like floating underneath the trash. It doesn't matter, man. Structure is structure. If you can find, we've talked, how many times have we talked about this? If you can find structure, you will find fish. It doesn't matter if it's trash, a shopping cart. And I think that's why the artificial reefs are just so good. It's like you get one that's made for these fish and they slay. I mean, they take it when it's not even made, just happenstance, whether it's trash or whatever. These fish use it. It's crazy. Real time fishing. Oos, what's going on, man? Glad you could join us. Just talking sea lions and orcas and artificial reefs. Benji, Tom Cod Moreto, Oos, what's going on, Benji? How you been? How's Arizona treating you? Hopefully good. I see you out there with the family. Got the special cup. Thank your wife again for that. Yeah, that's crazy. I think you guys got to go on a mission. Go fish some of those artificial reefs out there. Go to the website. Go to California Fishing Game. Go get the coordinates. They give you the exact coordinates. Just hit some of them up. I gotta bet that some of these have just been kind of abandoned. Just see if they're there. Maybe they're just trash. Maybe there's nothing to them. I certainly know they're not as good as the Florida ones, but definitely check it out. And I know they built also in South Bay a couple years ago. They were dropping some cement, like those blocks with all the holes in it. So I know they were putting artificial reef back in South Bay in the shallow part. It's probably pretty good now. You can actually look up where they planted them. I think that was definitely over a year ago, maybe 2 years. So they're probably producing. Let's go check it out. All right, let's see what we got here. Questions. See, we got the Instagram questions. What did Brian say? Oh, let me have to check that out. Brian said, "Did you hear the orcas have come to San Diego? Come to San Diego. We're trying to steal. You know what? He's trying to steer them towards Vancouver. I didn't even think about that, but actually, I was talking trash on the orcas because I didn't want to kayak with them, and they were being assholes like to all the boats. But orcas do eat the sea lions, so that's actually the sea lions need to be thinned out. I know a lot of you guys are like, well, not you guys probably on here, but a lot of people, especially in California, think they're like some special species. Sea lions are like they're like the rat of the ocean. They're a nuisance. They're pests. They smell. They're not endangered in any way. Not even close. They're like of least concern when you look at the list. There's too many of them out there. Thin them out, man. Do what you got to do, orcas. You know what? I'm team orca all of a sudden. First, I was kind of worried about them, but I forgot about the sea lions. I forgot about our war. And the orcas could actually be a good close ally on this one. Maybe we keep them around. We should spook the sea lions out. Spook them off the barge when the orcas come through. That may be a good thing, actually. Maybe they will stick around and eat some sea lions. They should. You think they'd be here all the year round when they find out how many sea lions are in Southern California. And then I wonder if the activists would like shut down the sea lion fisher or the chasing off the orcas because they're eating all the sea lions. That's pretty funny. I've changed my mind on the orcas then. Instagram questions. Except we just have one from Graham. It said, "What's been the best fighting fish you have caught since you've been in Florida?" Um, the best fighting fish was probably that barracuda that I caught. It was like it was over 20 pounds. I think it was big. It was probably it was like 4.5 feet long. I mean, it was over 20 something pounds that fight. But pound for pound, the amberjacks are insane, dude. They're kind of like a yellowtail. They're a lot more abundant out here, but they fight way harder. The yellowtail got fight too, some of the big ones, but these amberjack, they fight way harder than the yellowtail do. And for their size, they're almost like yeah, bonito, like small bonito fight. They kind of fight like that. Like they're super strong, super hard fighters. I mean, and apparently they get up to like 80 pounds. I think the amberjack is like the hardest fighting fish out here so far, pound for pound. If I caught say size amberjack at barracuda, would probably get smoked. And we were getting spooled by some, probably because they were getting eaten by sharks. But yeah, it was nuts. Amberjack, I think, are probably the hardest fighters, and they were everywhere too. We were catching them like crazy, all the way from like the 20-gram jigs to the 200 grams. Man, they were just eating everything. Lots of rain. Also, it's raining in Arizona too. I think the whole country. Like anybody's escaping it. You guys get flash floods or anything like that, Benji? Or have you guys been pretty good? Leonard said, I think coach said the orcas ripped up a dolphin in La Jolla in front. Yeah, I saw him like the videos where they were tossing a dolphin through the air. Orcas don't play, man. They don't discriminate anything in their way. Brian said, I caught an amberjack in Cabo. It was the hardest fighting fish, pound for pound, that I caught in the whole trip. Yeah, amberjack are nuts, man. We were catching them just one after the other, but it's like it's crazy. You guys seen that video, right? Of Kevin, the one that I just posted. That was a decent sized amberjack, but I mean, apparently they get up to like 70 pounds. That was probably like, I don't know, he probably caught like a 12-pounder, and he had to fight it like crazy, mostly because we were trying to get it. There's two problems out here. They're very tough fighting fish, but whenever you catch them, like we talked about, they're in the reefs, they're in the wreck. And when they're near the bottom, you have to be able to pull them up out of the wreck, out of because they dive in the reef and they'll break you off. So you have to get them up out of the reef, and then you have the sharks to deal with. There's so many sharks out here. The sharks eat them. So then you're fighting. The first fight, you're on this beefy ass fish. You have to get it out of the wreck, out of the reef, and then once you're fighting it, you have to fight it against the sharks and get it away from the sharks. It's just like we lost a lot, man. Last time we went out, we lost 20 fish easy, either to sharks or down into the reef. And we probably landed just as many, but yeah, it's crazy. Amberjack is no joke. Benji said lots of flash flooding. Yeah, man, stay safe. Hopefully they're not hitting you too bad. You've been fishing out in Bullhead, getting bit. They got stripers, Benji. Pretty big stripers in there too. I've seen them. It's no joke. Yeah, I think that was it from questions. If you guys got anything else, let me know. If not, we'll wrap it up till next week. Jessica said special shout out to Cal and Eric, but neither of them were on the stream. Eric was on the Instagram earlier, but he's not on now. Brian says, so when the sharks grab your fish, did you lose your jig? Yeah, we lost a lot of jigs. Not always. Sometimes they sometimes you'll get like half of a fish back, which happens a lot. And sometimes, yeah, they eat the jig and there's no hope. Or they eat the fish and they hold on to it and they're just like they're taking off and like the jig is just so stuck. But we were bringing back um the first time I've ever seen Kevin brought back, it was just the hooks. So they ate the jig, somehow broke the jig. It broke the jig off the split ring or something with a solid ring. I don't know. Like only the hooks came back on the line. And then other times we were getting the jig back. This was more common with the hooks gone because the shark's teeth, they'd eat the fish and then they'd eat the jig, but then their teeth would cut the hooks off. So we'd get the hook like with just the threads. So it would be the jig with the two lines where the assist hook was, when you can tell where it was just sawed off from the shark teeth. It was crazy, man. Yeah, you lose a lot of jigs too. Benji Moreno with the $10 super sticker. Benji, thanks, brother. I really appreciate you. Now I can get a Starbucks in the morning. Just kidding. I don't drink coffee. Maybe I'll go to Sizzler. Thank you, Benji. You're the man. I thank you for all the support. I really appreciate it. Sammy says, is there decent tuna fishing in Florida? There is tuna. What do they fish for? It's like blackfin tuna out here. I don't think there's bluefin. I believe there is, but they're too far to get to, if that makes sense. Like they're in the Atlantic, but I think they're too far offshore. Blackfin tuna apparently do come through. But I don't think like the bluefin or anything. I think it's too warm of waters, but I haven't heard of like super crazy good tuna fishing. Nothing is like the the bluefin fishery in Southern California. That's like California's claim to fame, that big bluefin fishing. But I know they do it in like New Jersey. We had one of my podcasts. I had Summertime Outdoors on, and he was talking about how he um, was going out tuna fishing, and they were looking for bluefin tuna, and they were getting on them, and it sounded. And I think they were probably like they're not as weren't as big as the California ones, but um, Wicked Tuna is just north of here too, and they crush like those 300-400 pound bluefin. Sometimes they're like 500 pound. You guys ever watch the show? It's like they're crazy. So they are on the Atlantic, and I think Florida is too shallow, and I think they're too far to get. So I haven't heard of the bluefin out here, if that makes sense. So there are tuna, but just different species, a different just a different thing. Tons of Dorado, the mahi mahi run through here like crazy. Well, the thing with Florida is like you get those big. It's like the king mackerel, which are huge. You get the huge barracuda, the wahoo, like crazy through here. The Dorado, like more of like the like kind of exotic stuff. At least that's my understanding. So I'll have to look into what kind of tuna they have. Yeah, man, it's crazy. Does anyone have the Garmin 94 SV UHD2, like the improved resolution over the UHD version? Three. I don't have a Garmin. I've got a Simrad. No, not a fish finder. I've got a I've got a Simrad on my boat, and then I've got a Hummingbird on my kayak. But if anybody wants to chime in, let me know. Does the 1300 come with the is that the unit itself, or like with the transducer and all the stuff, or is it just like the head unit? I mean, 1300 is not bad if it's like the head unit and a transducer. That's not too bad. But I mean, I don't know. That's like Simrad head unit was probably like, I don't know, probably 5 grand for all the transducer and stuff. Then my Hummingbird was like $700. I feel like so that's probably a good unit. O'Brien's got the Garmin SV7 on his kayak. So how do you like that? Do you think he needs the improved resolution? I don't know. It's just me. I don't know if you need that much resolution on a fish finder. It's like, well, unless you're looking for like, unless you're doing live scan, probably for like freshwater, I would say. If you're using like the side scan and the live scan, and all that stuff, and you really need the detail of like the structure. Um, I'm like I don't ever really use like live scan or side scan, to be honest with you. I know a lot of these guys do. I use the old school sonar. So that's why it's like a resolution to me doesn't matter too much. I'm just looking at the colors and then the bleeps and trying to, deciphering what the structure is just based on that. So I'm kind of old school. Is 7 inch big enough? For a kayak? Yeah. Yeah, Brian says that too. 7 inch is good for a kayak. I think he'd be fine. Sammy says he has the same Garmin 73 SV. He says, I do like the Garmin, but I like the Lowrance and Simrad a little better because the fish reveal feature. Oh, interesting. Benji said, have you done any rooster tail fishing? I haven't. Is that like was that a freshwater fish? Rooster tail fishing? Is that like a peacock bass? I haven't fished those. I don't know what that is. I'll have to look into that. Or permit fishing. I haven't. There's still so much fishing I haven't done. I've just been the only fishing I've done out here is the inshore, for like sea trout, redfish, flounder, black drum, mangrove snapper, stuff like that. And then offshore, there's like snapper, um, amberjacks, barracuda, cobia, all that stuff. Still plenty of time to get in all the other stuff. There's too much fishing out here. It's crazy. All right, guys. Thank you all for hanging out. I really appreciate it. I know it's a slow season. It's the winter. We're just trying to get through it, waiting for that warm water, waiting for everything to be popping off again. But it's coming. We'll be here soon enough. The dog days of winter are almost over. We'll see you guys at PCS next month. I still got a couple more shows before then, so I'm really looking forward to that. And appreciate you guys supporting, buying all the jigs. Really means a lot to me, helping us grow. You guys are the best. Sammy, thank you for all the content you're putting out for us. The pro staff, you're the man. Leonard, thank you for the support, being a member. Benji, being a member, thank you for the super chat. Brian likes to fish. Thank you guys. Really appreciate all you guys. And yeah, we'll see you next week. And till next time, just get out there and fish. Get out there and grind in the winter. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Appreciate y'all. Oos.